everyone, this is Pico Entertainment and we're back again, and here now we have another video for you, and we're just going to give some quick thoughts on Xmen 97, and after the first trailer was recently released, asked the question as to whether it can possibly come anywhere close to matching the incredible animated series from 1992. And just for some foreground for anybody who doesn't know what this is, Xmen 97 is a sequel or continuation of the iconic 1992 series that, when released back in October 1992, really captured the imagination of a whole generation of early young kids, including myself, introducing a new evolution of television animation from the 80s Saturday morning animated cartoons. The X-Men series from 1992 really captured the aesthetic of the comic book runs drawn by the great Jim Lee and also written a lot by Chris Claremont, and it also adapted faithfully some of the biggest storylines within the X-Men universe, whether it was the Savage Lands, the Age of Apocalypse, the Phalanx Covenant, and of course the Phoenix Saga. We'd see the team of Cyclops, Jean Grey, Wolverine, Storm, Rogue, Gambit and Jubilee all vividly brought to life with a great dynamic and characterization, and this would extend even further to the iconic villains such as Magneto, Sinister, Apocalypse, Juggernaut and also the Hellfire Club. And both the story and characterization were treated with real seriousness and maturity that had enough balance to be enjoyed by both kids and adults. And the show really elevated the X-Men into mainstream cultural status, generating a massive interest into the comic books, of which many a fan got into because of the animated show. Running for 5 seasons from 1992 to 1997 and overall 76 episodes, the show really opened up a new dawn of mature superhero animation throughout the 1990s, and this continued with the likes of Spider-Man the animated series, Batman the animated series, Superman the animated series, Batman Beyond, and later of course with both Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. So when Disney and Marvel announced the new series of X-Men 97 back in November 2021, overall my thoughts were very mixed. Because so often we see these renewals and continuations of iconic animated series, but they end up lacking a serious tone or maturity, and they go for a much more safer kiddie approach, a lot of the time the animation is even lower in standard, with the essence of what made the show so special truly missing. We'd only have to look at the Kevin Smith He-Man Netflix adaptation as a pure example of this. But X-Men 97 did promise the return of most of the original voice actors from the original show, and also the original creators of the 1992 series, so that was another positive sign that there was every intention here to retain the special qualities of the original show. And with some of the earlier screenshots of this series that were released a couple of months ago, they seem to retain also the original 90s costumes and look of the characters mostly. So after the recent trailer dropped on Thursday the 15th of February, would this series deliver, or would it be yet again another failed promised adaptation? Well, again, after watching this trailer, I'm still very mixed. We have the iconic theme music from the show that's retained mostly, a few tones changed here or there, but at least they did retain it, which is another positive aspect. The animation itself does have a certain fluidity in terms of the motion, and it's a real glossy sheen in terms of the colours. They look very vibrant and bright. Again, that's what exactly you want to see. But we then look a bit deeper in terms of the animation and particularly the art style, and it's not quite what I was hoping for. In terms of the characters and their look, it's absolutely fine, but I'm sure there will be many like myself who were wanting to see much more of a closer rendition, again going back to the Jim Lee type of style that we saw from the original series. And when I talk about this, I'll talk about in terms of there being much more detail and textured, in terms of the way that the characters are drawn and also the way that their physique appears. This overall series looks a bit too smooth. We see some of the more thicker, heavy line art that's very reminiscent of the DC Tomorrowverse animated films, and I really don't like it. It just has that bit cheap look about it. And I don't think the show looks necessarily as bad as those Tomorrowverse animated series, but again, I was just hoping that we would get far more of that depth and layer in terms of the contrast, and once more the detail that what we saw that very much gave that hand-drawn look, gave so much impression that the comic books were literally leaping onto the screen. Now we do know that part of the reason for this is that they adopt far more smoother and clearer lines because it makes it easier to animate and it makes the framework more smoother. But at the same time, again, you want to capture the same look and aesthetic as what we saw before, and I don't quite get this here. It's fine, like I said, overall, it's just lacking that certain depth and much more physicality that we saw within the original series. And perhaps I'm being more overcritical here, but it almost seems like they've upgraded the style from the last couple of episodes from the final season of the original series. The trailer itself opened with the final sequence where we saw Professor X passing away as the X-Men would go on to lead a new life without him. Now, if you indeed watched the series, you would have known that the 5th season, the last batch of episodes, were much more weaker in standard due to the original production company Xmen going bankrupt, and the overall production was being outsourced to overseas countries, and this resulted in a much cheaper value in terms of both the storytelling and also the standard of animation. And this is not a style that I really want them to take vision from. If we look at the first 4 seasons, which were absolutely exceptional, the animation itself really peaked, I would say, around about the midpoint of season 3, where we were indeed dealing with both the Phoenix and Dark Phoenix saga, and also the likes of Obsession with Archangel. Later on, we would have the 2-part Sanctuary with Magneto and the Acolytes, and of course the epic 4-part story arc called Beyond Good and Evil. That was when the animation series really peaked in terms of its animation, and I was really hoping that this would be the same. If anything, you can go onto YouTube and you will see certain clips where certain creators have upscaled the animated series from 1992 in more HD resolution. And when you take a look at that, that's the sort of standard that I was looking for when looking forward to this overall series. And when we look at the overall design of the characters, most of them look absolutely fine. Cyclops, Wolverine, Gambit, Bishop, Beast, they all look very good. Then when we look at Rogue, she does have the iconic green and yellow makeup. That's what we associate with. And again, we have the original voice, that Southern Texan accent that is so integral to the character. But her hairstyle doesn't have quite that same texture and frizziness than what we saw from the original series. We then look at Storm. Again, she has that classical white silver design that again comes from the original series. But she has the mohawk. Now, I do know, of course, that from the earlier era of X-Men around about the 70s, Storm did have the mohawk costume and much with the black and yellow design. But I'm not liking that design here. Again, maybe I'm too attached to the original series, but I much preferred the longer, curvier hairstyle than what we saw from the original so maybe that will take a bit of getting used to. And also when we look at the animation, if you notice that the backgrounds are much more of that 3D cell shaded design, and I'm not a big fan of that because I think it's a bit of a disconnect from the overall 2D hand-drawn animation. I always think that you should always keep the animation the same. So if it's 2D in terms of the characters, then it should be 2D mostly for the backgrounds. If you want to have certain spacecraft with that 3D cell shading, then that's fine. But I can at times make the characters almost separate from what's going on within the background. Again, this may all be just a bit of getting used to. When we see the overall product and the first couple of episodes, maybe everything will flow closer together. So as well as this design, I think what's most important here is that they do retain the same tone and maturity of the original series. Again, that doesn't mean that everything has to be graphically violent. No, not by any means, because the 1992 was graphically violent. But I really hope they do adopt the same intelligence and depth and world building. As well as standalone episodes, we would get more consistent, longer story arcs. And that was really a special quality of the series, how it was able to juggle both type of narratives and sustain the storytelling to a high standard overall. So that's the real big element that I'm looking for here. Deep, textured, very mature, long building story arcs, and of course, more faithful adaptations of the best storylines within the original comic book source material. So overall, not bad, not terrible, not quite the same hype levels I was looking for, but hopefully that will improve over time when the show arrives on Disney Plus on March 20th this year. And of course, when it does, I will provide plenty of review and coverage of the first season also, so look out for that on the channel. So that's my overall thoughts and feelings on the first trailer and first look of X-Men 97. Whether it can stand up to the iconic 92 series, we will have to wait and see. But overall, I'm still mixed on the subject. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you have any other subjects or movies or television series that you'd like to see me cover within the channel, then also let me know within the comments, and I will see if I can provide further commentary for you on that subject matter within the future. Please also hit like the subscription and notification buttons so I can provide you with more high quality content like this in the future. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you very, very soon.